Hello, my name is Ken Chen. 大家好，我是郑胜耀。我是中正大学的教授，现在是鄒族知识研究中心的主任。Yeah, it's our pleasure to introduce. We have 4 very important keynote speaker that from different countries. We'll introduce first one, Colby Smart from Humboldt County. He is a deputy superintendent, also a lot of connection with indigenous education. Please say hi to.
大家好, you, everyone. It's nice to be here, Professor Ken. Very feel honored to be here and having the opportunity to share a little bit about indigenous education in California. So as Deputy Superintendent of the Humboldt County Office of Education, I help to support 31 school districts, largely rural, in areas of early childhood mental health, career technical education, curriculum and instruction, and a whole bunch of other things.
Thank you.
Yes,
wow,
absolutely.
Thanks, Colby. And the second one, we'll introduce Yoshiro Tanaka. He is a vice president of St. Oberlin University from Japan. Please say hi.
Hello.
Okay, that's it? Okay, good.
Hi.
Thank you. And the third one will be Lawrence Machi. He was my also very good friend. He was a senior high school teacher, principal, and a superintendent, and also a professor for a long time. He did a lot of job about education. Please say hi to our customers.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. And then the last one, but not least one, will be Rich Whitney. He right now is a professor in La Verne University about the leadership. So you also will mention about a lot about cultural leadership. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. It'll be fun to talk about leadership and the topic, education.
Okay, thank you. So I have, because we have 4 kind of, guest speakers, so we will try to maybe ask them to briefly introduce themselves about their background, about what the connection for them to go with education, and also for the cultural education, for indigenous education, okay?
Okay.
Maybe we start with Colby.
Sure, absolutely. So I suppose I'll start with a little bit about my background. So I grew up in Northern California, and I've been surrounded in rural education environments pretty much my entire life. My undergraduate focus was history and computer science and anthropology, and my graduate work included educational technology and organizational leadership. So I've been at the County Office of Education for about 12 years, and I've also been an adjunct professor at my local university in educational leadership.
Okay, thank you, Colby. Yoshi, you want to also...
Well, and my name is Yoshiro Tanaka from Tokyo. But anyways, not exactly sure. How can I tell about the indigenous peoples and how the education of those people in Japan? But anyway, then I probably can get some ideas anyway from other peoples anyway to get a comment on you.
Thank you. And then Larry, please.
I'm Larry Machi. I've had the opportunity to be both a school administrator and also a professor in a number of universities, Fulbright scholar. So I've been very interested in the idea of cultural competencies across different cultures. And having visited the Zhou tribe 5 years ago, I'm very interested to see what's going on now. The way that Taiwan is dealing with the tribes and trying to be able to integrate as well as keep an individualization is wonderful. And so I'm here to learn.
Thank you. The last one will be Rich, please.
Hi, Rich Whitney from the University of La Verne, and I teach in the organizational leadership program for an EDD, or the doctoral program. And the classes that I teach and talk about are personal leadership, which looks at the phenomenology of one's personal leadership. And then I teach the leadership theory class. And so today's topic, I can see how it's going to talk about the identity of the person and the base for all of us as people, and how that's going to come around through some theory and some talking about education and who we are.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for our 4 guest speakers. But I think first I want to focus on because we have a long-term connection with American Indians, Native American, with Colby. will be Colby can maybe brief outline some kind of idea about indigenous education in California, okay?
Sure, absolutely, Ken. So I think first I'd like to start off with a little context about California. California is an incredibly rich in diversity and also geography. California has been inhabited by peoples for tens of thousands of years. And we know that because when European settlers arrived, every place had a name. Every river, every mountain, they were named by the local tribes. So California has carried on its tradition of rich cultural diversity to this day. In our schools, we have over 85 different languages spoken around the state. There's about 40 million people. And in fact, I recently read about 60% of new students in California live in homes where their parents weren't born. So California has always been a place of rich cultural diversity. The one challenge, and perhaps the biggest challenge that California has had, is while its cultures have been and are diverse, students have not traditionally seen themselves in the curriculum. And that's most especially evident in the lack of Native American studies in California curriculum. So in 2022, the California State Legislature passed legislation to appropriate dollars for the development of 4 model curriculum projects. And those happen to be about Southeast Asian cultures, so Vietnamese, Cambodian, and also Hmong history. Those populations are quite large in California. The other one is Native American Studies. In my office, the Humboldt County Office of Education, we oversee the development of that. One of the striking things about the Native American cultures in California is there's 109 federally recognized tribes and 86 seeking recognition. So, for example, in my county alone, there are over 7 federally recognized tribes. Tribes like the Yurok, the Wiyot, the Karuk, the Bear River. Okay? So we began this project in 2022 with a very generous allocation by the California State Legislature. And it was, from the beginning, very, very important to me and to us as a county office that we don't make the mistakes that educators have made in the past, meaning that the curriculum was developed outside of the culture, and it was also developed and framed that Native Americans were something of the past. We didn't want that. So those are the 2 main important points I want to mention. So we contract with knowledge keepers in each one of those 109 federally recognized tribes and many of the tribes that are seeking recognition to identify areas that are areas of opportunity for curriculum development in the areas of traditional ecological knowledge, mathematics, the arts, history, social studies, so on and so forth. And so I have curriculum developers who also happen to be tribal affiliated with the Yurok and also the Karuk tribe, who work with knowledge keepers within the tribe and contract them. So we match professional curriculum developers, okay, with knowledge keepers. And through partnership, they're developing, I think it's right now they're up to 150 lessons in 9 units that are developed not just for high school level, but start at the kindergarten level in those various domains. Okay? So that's just a little bit of background. A little bit more, the project is going to be submitted to the University of California, Davis. It'll be open to all the public. So if there are any listeners out there who would like to access this curriculum to learn about California tribes, they can do so free of charge. It'll be open source curriculum. And the project will be culminating this May, and it will be posted over the summer.
Excellent. Yeah, actually, I just mentioned to our 4 guest speakers because my institute got some grant from the Indigenous Council of Taiwan. We try to recreate some kind of, we call the knowledge kind of framework to really kind of get some idea about their culture and everything. So I think really similar to what Colby just mentioned about the California Native American do about the model curriculum like that. We try to really think about how to make a transition to become more useful, be recognized by the modern society. Okay, thank you, Colby.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also just you mentioned that. Well, I want to ask our four guest speakers about by your own kind of research expertise and also follow up the yesterday's discussion. What can be your suggestions for this kind of ideas that the local tribal community want to do something in the education system, and how can they try to make it better? Do you have any kind of maybe suggestion or some kind of something we can really think about for the future?
Well, first of all, I am so impressed with, with the commitment that the Taiwanese government has towards building curriculum that's centered in the various 16 recognized tribes in Taiwan. And so I would say that one of the areas of opportunity that we have, because this work is not only going on in the United States and in Taiwan, but it's going on in many places around the world. If we can tap into or potentially even help support and nurture the cross-culture collaboration. I know in the United States, we have over 500 nations across the United States, and there is a really nice large trend. In fact, you were in the United States a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Remember we went to Big Time? Those are opportunities for tribes to share about each other's cultures. So if we can leverage our areas of influence to create conditions where people can collaborate and learn from one another. I know just last year when Maggie Peters, my curriculum developer, was here, we had that exchange with the Indigenous Peoples Council, and we both learned so much. So I would say that's one area where we can, I think, all do better at.
Yeah, thanks about that, Colby, about the cross-cultural kind of tribal connection. Right now, we have a kind of platform that all these 16 kind of tribe in Taiwan, we have some kind of discussion panel every year. We think about what will be the common or what will be the different kind of struggle we face every day. And I think we can create something like a Big Time in the Northern California. Yeah,
that would be amazing.
Yeah, I will try to learn more about that.
Maybe we can meet in the middle in Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii too. Yeah,
And,
that'd be good.
I'll say I'd add one more thing, Kent. So global education is a passion of ours, and you and I share that very, very deeply. One of the projects that we are working on and have been working on is finding opportunities for Indigenous youth development, leadership development. And so recently, about a year and a half ago, we created a club of language speakers in our local high schools, Yurok language speakers, and they actually interact with students from Jai Senior Technical High School. And global education works a lot different, as you might imagine, with teenagers as opposed to elementary school students.
Yeah, actually, Colby and I will create a program called the Global Education or Global Classroom Connect. One of the major part we start from the indigenous education between Alishan, like a Zhou tribe, and also some tribe in the U.S. So we try to help the indigenous youth about the leadership part. So that's very good one. And also last year we created some kind of language exchange program between the Jai Senior High School and the senior high school student in the U.S. I think that will be a good one to create that kind of platform. Thanks, Colby.
Thank you.
Yoshi, do you have anything that you can provide some kind of idea to rethink about, follow up our yesterday's discussion about what will be the localization and the globalization, okay?
Wow. Well, unfortunately, I do not know well about this kind of areas of the indigenous peoples and what going on anyway. And but I got some ideas and from yesterday's meetings anyway. But however, whenever I'm talking about the Japan's anyway, and I know we had indigenous people in Japan, and historically, I understand we had them. But however, and these days, school never talk and teach about those kind of peoples and the cultures itself anyway. So people, when we are do not know, and still there are those kind of people in Japan or not. But anyway, but still kind of invisible. So, but however, anyway, and in the society, and not only Japan's anyway, is face so many problems we need to solve, and not we are trying to looking at the kind of good ideas anyway, and probably those kind of ideas anyway the people share, and it's kind of the kind of treasures anyway to share the kind of good ideas, wisdoms anyway. So maybe we can look at those kind of the people who lived in Japan anyway, and who were there in Japan anyway. They do, and we can learn a lot from them anyway. What their good ideas and the wise ideas of their lives anyway. So and for the future, it probably takes time, but however, and maybe we can look at what happened anyway in the historically. It makes something and it's quite meaningful. That's what I'm told. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yoshi just mentioned that just like in Taiwan, I think about 10 years ago, people think about indigenous idea and culture are invisible and also mute. Their voice did not appear in the kind of modern society. So that we try to provide some kind of opportunity that every student in Taiwan really have the kind of feeling cultural awareness about indigenous. So I think we can try to learn something from Japan and the US, California too. And then Larry, I know that you went to the Zhou tribe before.
Yes.
And also we have a follow-up discussion. So what will be your kind of feeling and kind of suggestion right now according to the discussion we just met?
I think there's a contribution, not just inside, but to the outside as well. Having the opportunity of being able to visit the Joe tribe and also having an opportunity to be with the Yurok and the Pomo, I saw a lot of similarity. But there's old knowledge, and I want to tap into that idea. In California today, as an example, we're starting to ask the indigenous tribes to help us understand how to manage a forest. Because they have the old knowledge. So part and parcel of allowing a culture to thrive is allowing it to be included and allowing it to have an important part in terms of what the overall culture is doing. And so from an outsider, I'm asking the question, how can we engage in such a way that the indigenous cultures are now accepted, as you're doing here, and as they're trying to do in Vietnam as well. We do it in the United States in such a way that we allow them to have the trust and respect that they should have. And that becomes the true nature of an integration that's interdependent, because we can learn so much from the old cultures, not just the tribes themselves, but the overall community. So for me, watching these partnerships grow, we're going to find perhaps the phenomenology that we need to find, and we find the soul of the human being.
Excellent. Thanks. I think I really learned a lot from the speech like Larry just mentioned that, because I delivered a lecture in Australia. We mentioned about SDGs. Yeah, I think about SDGs is just old knowledge to the indigenous people. They know how to deal with the things, with the culture, everything. So right now SDGs become a very high issue. So they say their own knowledge, just like Larry just mentioned. So when I think about how to make this kind of idea be recognized by everyone. Thank you. The last but not least will be Rich. Yeah, Rich being about a lot about leadership. So when you mention about the leadership and also maybe cultural events, what will be your idea about that? Thank you.
Well, the things that we were talking about yesterday and learning about the studies and the work that you're doing here with the Zhou tribe and other indigenous here in Taiwan, I noticed that there's a sense of chaos theory that could be happening where we get to pull in from this old knowledge and we can see the patterns that are evolving over time and how they're coming together. So I think if we took that and then coupled that with leadership theory and just identity, like one's identity, a personal identity, but all of our identities emanate from these tribes, these cultures that were here before us, but we have lost that, or we didn't recognize that for whatever reasons. And so I think if we could take leadership theory and go back to review and look at that kind of thing, we can see the epistemology of leadership was really there before we started to study it. And so if we would bring that into the forefront now and start talking about organizational behavior, organizational development, the idea of leadership, I think we're going to find a lot that we could use in today's look at leadership and the identity of leadership development and one's progression through their own journey.
Yeah, I think about right now. Actually, my institute try to do a lot of interview and also do a lot of data collection through the tribe, and then we interview a lot of elders and I think about what will be their their cultural leadership.
Yeah.
Just like you mentioned about that. So yeah, so maybe we can really get some ideas from the kind of idea and theory like I mentioned about that. And also I just remember that yesterday we discussed a lot about to make this kind of the framework or the knowledge become dynamic, not stable. So
Right.
a lot of like chaos theory can help a lot. Okay.
Yeah, pulling those nuggets of knowledge and wisdom that have not been voiced or have not been collected or not been organized in a way that we could use them in leadership today. Like it's just been passed through just oral history or from person to person. But if we could capture that, perhaps in some studies or something, or going back and looking at those transcripts and working on what's happening with leadership today and how we really knew this way back in the early days, but we didn't recognize it or we failed to recognize it.
Thanks a lot. We almost run out of time. Yeah. So, but we can have a final kind of remark about something. I know that Colby have a lot of things to say. About what will be some kind of for different kind of when we mention about indigenous education, we mention about localization. But I think about to have more like international exchange. It's very important. So do you think about this kind of idea? Also maybe how can we improve it and how maybe change a little bit? Yeah, thank you.
So I'll give you an example of a school we connected. Remember, we Pu'uma Elementary
Pu'uma in Taichung.
In Taichung, Ataya.
Ataya.
They have a sister relationship with Orleans Elementary School, which is a Karuk school. It's a public school with the majority of students in part of the Karuk tribe. And one of the projects that they did is they did partial language, but they also did a project around architecture, right? About home and the architecture of the particular houses. Something really magical happens when I witness these kinds of cultural exchanges in global education. One, students realize that the majority of people on Earth are similar. We want the same thing. We want healthy families, we want safe environments, and we want a thriving community. The other thing that happens that I think is truly magical is students not only learn about other cultures, but they really become more motivated about learning their own. When a young person learns to articulate the benefits and the challenges, and sometimes the areas of serious improvement, we are doing ourselves a world of good in terms of healing the relationship between Native Americans and the dominant culture. Oftentimes, Native Americans are portrayed as a two-dimensional people. As I mentioned often in the past, they're thriving. And fortunately, in California, colonization came the latest in the development of the United States, maybe outside of Hawaii and Alaska, right? As a result, in California, particularly in Northern California, you have largely intact tribes. They were certainly impacted, especially by the gold rush, but the cultural tradition, while suppressed for 150 years, they had thousands, millennia of opportunities to develop these rich cultures. What we're seeing right now is, I believe, part of this, it's not only because of this, but part of this is it's a project of healing and trust building between a culture that was, in many cases, systematically, in some of our tribes, systematically eradicated. Thank you, Larry. Eradicated intentionally. But in other cases, we're seeing that many of our tribes are flourishing. Many of the dancers are coming back because there's not the same level of systemic oppression, right? And I think California, the least that California can do is have the curriculum and the visibility of our rich tribal communities show up in the classrooms for all students, because all students benefit from the knowledge that California has always been diverse, and we gather our strength from that diversity. So
That's a good one about the diversity and also everything you learn. In the future, maybe by the end, you will learn how to know yourself more. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I like that one. And also the trust building, also very important. Thanks a lot.
How would we say the dominant culture is paying tribute to one of the subordinate cultures? It's elevating that trust between the two. And the symbolism of what this curriculum is doing exactly that, to the point where it gives the tribe its ability to get its self-recognition back and cultural soul back, which in fact allows the tribe to grow. So Colby is doing a number of things on the historical side, kind of setting the record straight and allowing people to tell their truth. But on the other side, on the symbolic side, you're giving soul back to that culture. And that issue of inclusion is that soul. This is a wonderful thing that you all are doing, and it should happen internationally. The other part of this is, if we're going to solve the climate process, let's go back to the people that kept this earth the way it was supposed to be.
That's great. Yeah. And also, the future of the indigenous people or indigenous students that the Council of Indigenous People in Taiwan, they'll think about will be global citizenship. So not only for focus on trying to figure out their traditional culture, but also know how to deal with the global issues. So there'll be their kind of future goal about that. Rich, you want to mention a little bit?
Everything we're talking about here is leadership and is transformational leadership.
Yeah, transformation.
Truly, where we're helping to transform two cultures together, the indigenous culture and today's culture. And so the more we help bring one up, then the more the other one gets raised at the same time.
Exactly.
So
it's a
it's gonna
kind
help.
of win-win situation. Not only you keep the local your traditional culture, you can maybe ignore the modern society. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yoshi, you want to? Yeah, to the kind of closing remark.
No, it's not closing remarks, but however, anyway, whenever we're talking about those kind of issues anyway, and not only cultural issues, is probably the psychological study is quite more important sometimes anyway, have to be add on. And like intrapersonal relationships and communication issues, interpersonal, so the intercultural issues anyway, that how the people develop anyway. And respect is quite important whenever we are working together anyway. That time it's not only a cultural issues, and easy to tell that this is a culture, but however, how psychologically, how they can and believe themselves anyway, or trust themselves anyway, and also trust in each other. So it's quite important anyway. So that how the definition of even the peace anyway. So it depends on it's from a point of view, a psychological point of view, and a cultural point of view, political point of view. It's many kind of point of views anyway. We need a kind of holistic approach to looking at those kind of people, how people can work together anyway, so live together anyway. That's quite important.
I totally agree about that. I discussed with a person who worked for OECD about SDGs. He did not mention SDG 4. It's about quality education. SDGs is a kind of holistic. Like everything will connect for these 17 kind of goals. So to trust yourself, trust other cultures, trust everything will become the kind of major mission in the future. Thanks a lot. Yeah, let me use Chinese to ending. Yeah, 非常感谢我们今天4位的来宾哈。然后刚才他们说法里面看到有很多在台湾跟美国，在很多原住民文化里面遇到的情况的时候，看到也是从原住民的文化被消音，然后被忽视、施行的地方，然后到最后慢慢的从一些课程去发展出来，然后也注意到说真正重要的地方应该是找到对于各自文化的尊敬，然后最后才会慢慢发展出一些对彼此文化的尊重哈。我觉得那是非常好的部分，那也可以透过很多国际交流的部分找到同跟异的地方。我觉得，然后真正我们的4位的共识就是如何让全球公民变成一个在原住民教育里面非常重要的一块，不只有为他们的部落文化而活，而是为了整个全球的永续发展而努力哈。I think to make the world better is a goal for indigenous education. Yeah, thanks for everything. Let's call it a day. Thank you.
谢谢。
Thank you.